In a world where you are told to speak up, witty chatter is considered as confidence. Silence and introversion might seem like a disadvantage and a sign of weakness. At times, we want to just shut all this noise and rumblings of the mind and attain some peace and quiet. But since we have become so used to all the noise, inside and out, we find it uncomfortable when we encounter a situation where there is silence and stillness. I will be sharing with you all 7 life transforming insights into the power of silence that will make you embrace silence with confidence. Number 1. Silence is an intimidating characteristic of many leaders. Often, wise people speak less than an average person. Their selection of words is often very mindful, and they don't speak unless there is a purpose to say something. People who talk a lot and unnecessarily give off signs of immaturity and being ungrounded, whereas those who are confidently silent project an intimidating aura. Someone who is confident and comfortable with silence shows that he or she is secure within themselves and doesn't feel the need to prove anything. Silence is the ultimate weapon of power. Number 2. People who speak less mindfully are generally more respected. When you speak less, you tend to maintain boundaries and a healthy distance from people. Often the reason why people lose respect for each other is that they cross each other's personal boundaries and get too much into each other's personal lives. When you have a habit of speaking less and speaking mindfully, you avoid such unnecessary intrusions into other people's lives, and in turn, they too respect your distance and privacy. Being a bit reserved is good to maintain healthy and respectable relations with people and avoid clashes and toxicity. Number 3. Being quiet makes you a better listener. A huge part of effective and fruitful communication is active listening, especially when it comes to building lasting relationships. In the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, emphasized a lot on talking less and actively listening to people during conversations, focusing your full attention towards understanding what the other person has to say. This is one of the most important ways to build good relations with people. Instead of talking about yourself or giving them advice and solutions that they didn't ask for, just give them your undivided attention. People will love you for that and will perceive you as a trustworthy, sincere, and kind-hearted individual. Since individuals who take an interest in what others have to say are rare nowadays, and people deeply appreciate those who really are. Much of the time, they really just need to vent out. They only need someone to talk to, someone that would listen. So being all ears is the best way to go in most cases. Number 4. Saves your mental energy from being wasted. Unnecessary and impulsive chatters are like tiny holes in a bucket of water, constantly leaking and wasting precious water. Since the holes are small, you don't notice the leakage right away, but by the end of the day, your bucket is empty without you even using the water for yourself, and you wonder where all the water went. Do you relate to this? Have you ever felt mentally drained? We must learn to be selective about conserving our mental energy so that we could invest it purposefully in places that really matter for us. Number 5. Being silent keeps you in control. When you speak impulsively, you tend to lose control. As long as your words are in your mouth, you have control over them. You can choose wisely what to say and what not to say. But once they leave your mouth, you can't take them back. So it's a more mature approach to keep quiet as you listen and observe. And when you do speak, speak precisely and choose your words wisely. This can even apply in certain negotiation scenarios. Instead of arguing and trying to justify your point of view, if you just put your demand forth and keep quiet, you are in control. The other person might get intimidated by the silence and give in. Number 6. Keeping quiet can settle down an argument. Arguments are often an endless exchange of justifications back and forth. If you keep talking back, it will keep going on. If you win an argument by shutting the other person down, you don't necessarily win. In fact, you lose the bond and relation in trying to prove a petty point. In many arguments, silence is enough to allow the other person to cool down, relax, and get settled. When you are quiet, they might realize their own mistakes by themselves without you trying to prove them wrong, and they might begin to take your perspective into consideration. And even if they don't, it certainly shows that they are adamant on their stance, so you are arguing with them won't change them anyway. Why waste of energy? Accepting and living with differences bring much more peace of mind than trying to convince other people. We often underestimate how powerful silence can be in building healthy relationships and settling heated arguments. It can be hard at times to keep quiet and control the urge to talk back, but keeping a long-term consequence in mind might just be enough to be quiet and patient. Number 7. Silence can help you execute better and put things into action. What many people do is that they would talk endlessly about their great ideas and inventions, their big vision, which never get put into action, at least not consistently, since all their energy is spent talking the talk rather than walking the walk. When people appreciate our great ideas before we even put them into action, our brain receives all that appreciation and acknowledgement as a reward, getting a subconscious sense of achievement that fulfills the inner hunger to achieve the target. A strange phenomenon, but true for most people. Final thoughts. It's not a bad thing to remain quiet or speak less. Sometimes there is no need to talk purposelessly. Yes, small talks and initiating conversations in certain scenarios can prove helpful in networking, building contacts, but again, those kinds of small talks are indeed purposeful and strategic in a sense that you are trying to build good relationships and make new contacts. Otherwise, you don't have to waste your energy only because you feel like you'll be the odd one out or you won't fit in it if you don't talk a lot. And even in cases where you find an urge to just talk endlessly about your ideas, plans, or the happenings of your life, there's a good chance that that might prove to be counterproductive and waste your mental and emotional energy, which could have been used in more productive things or towards people who really deserve your energy and full attention. One last thing to keep in mind is that don't be silent in places where clear and thorough communication is required, whether it be at work. Wisdom is knowing where to remain silent and where to speak up. Wisdom is also knowing when and how to use silence. All the advantages in practicing silence mentioned above might apply in many cases, and at certain times they might not. Whenever you are in such situations, just take a moment to think consciously and ask yourself what is the best thing to do in this scenario. Will silence be a benefit here? You will have your answer. Silence is an ocean. Speech is a river, Rumi.